McGrath comes in, it's on its way, it's there! The miracle on grass!
Owen with a kick to full forward, Cloak, not quite, Blair, Collingwood back in front.
The seed, he delays the give, Franklin, this is Buddy Franklin! This is the greatest showman! Poor fans can't bear to watch. They led by 28 points at one stage, but the perfect storm has erupted. Oh, who else? Mcdonald!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into our round 6 breakdown. You know what? Honestly, I thought it was weird. This was a really weird round, not for any of the reasons you might think, but for the one reason that I think for the first time this year, we've come out of a complete round of footy without a giant controversy that is destroying Twitter, that is destroying, I guess, Facebook, maybe Instagram, the YouTube, the comment sections. That's just running rampant through the AFL community. And I, for one, am shocked, and I don't really know how to react to that. If anything, I think I am pretty confused. How, are you in the same boat with me right now? Like, is it really around the footy without extreme controversy?
Well, here's the thing that I'm going to say is that the first probably half a day after the first game, the whole raising the arms drama was still.
I'm gonna count that as round 5er.
Friggin' minds. Well, because one call, and again, and I kind of stated it. I kind of stated it to a few friends of mine. I said, with what he did, the way the letter of the law was written, it's a 50. Do I agree? Was it demonstrative and probably should have been? No. And I said that. I said, do I like the way the law is written? No. But the funny part about it is didn't I call it, Ross? How many other demonstrative penalties did we see the rest of the round?
I don't know.
It's like the players knew what they were doing.
Well, it's like coaches and players adjusted to the rule set. Where have we seen this one before?
Oh boy, it's just I thought it was funny. So it's like, I mean, when I'm seeing tweets not even 2 or 3 hours after the game going, the game is in horrible shape. I'm like, no, it's not. It's that you are again making a big deal out of something that is going to be completely fine in a few days. And I'm not trying to Nostradamus, not trying to get a big head or pat myself on the back, but I called it. I figured it out.
You kind of saw the whole thing coming
it down a bit.
And I really, if you're surprised by it and didn't take Coach Johnny seriously here, I think you have your own issues to go off of. But even though we don't have a giant controversy to go over, we can just very well go ahead and make up our own. It's really not that hard. But let's, especially I can take. Let's talk about Honda Odyssey. I mean, Genoven. I mean, minivan. I mean, Jack over here. Oh man, that was a good time with the. I really did like him silencing the crowd like that. I think more players should do that when the opportunity arises.
The fascinating part about that whole situation is that not even 3 or 4 weeks earlier, Kane Corns was like, a kid needs to learn some respect. And then in Footy Classified a couple of days ago, he's like, I love having characters like him. And my favorite is the several other panelists go, well, why did you get on him so bad then? Why? And it's like, you can kind of see him go, well, I'm like, dude, this is why you got to choose how you're going to approach people carefully. It's like you should have gotten angry with the club, not the player in the first place. So you're going to eat crow a little bit, dude. I mean, plain and simply. Is Kane Corn one of those that occasionally loves to throw out the controversial opinion and most of the time be wrong? Yeah, he's pretty good at that.
Some people need to have their talent. Obviously, he's talented in that. Also, before we get cranking, just want to put it out there, if you guys are listening to this after we are live, then we're doing this stuff live now for not only for our AFL but also for our upcoming UFC and NFL shows as well over on our YouTube and Twitch. So go check those ones out. AFL stuff will be 6 o'clock Mountain Time every Wednesday. Australian time it's like around 10 a.m. So get a cup of coffee and come join us. And so if we're going to be changing a little bit of things here when it comes to replying to fans, such as, what's up, Austin? It's a pleasure to have you in. I know you're going to hate me for this pun, but it's been far too long. Oh, man, I hate myself for that. His last name is Long, everyone, for those that don't know. So it's really low-hanging fruit, but I kind of had to pick it. But we're live, so please check us out, because you can drop your angry and now I'm not going to call it angry, your passionate YouTube comments while we are live, so we can respond to you in real time. So it just adds into the fun here. But what we got for you guys today is some controversy coming out of the West Coast and the East Coast. Apparently, we're going coast to coast. We got a new TV deal possibly coming to the States. We're going to talk biggest surprises through the first 6 rounds of footy, and there is definitely someone that might be on the verge of signing a lifetime contract, and we're going to get Donnie's thoughts on who that might be. Then we're going to hop into Team of the Round, our tips, and then we're going to wrap things up for you guys. But for those that are live, you don't get to listen to it, so here's another perk. But for those that are listening to this after the podcast form drops, here's an ad.
Hey, it's the publisher here, Mr. Kelly Cole. Listen, if you are a former professional athlete, if you are a former college athlete or sports coach, and you're looking to launch your speaking career, let me tell you, you need a book. If you're already out there speaking and you want to track more high-paid speaking engagements, you need a book. It's not about creating more content to post on social media. It's not about recording a bunch of videos. It's not about doing more podcasts. The number one secret to attracting more high-paid speaking engagements or even launching your speaking career is a book. Hey, I'm the publisher, Mr. Kelly Cole, and I help former athletes and sports coaches create best-selling books in 30 days to launch their speaking career, even if they hate writing and don't know where to start. So for the first time ever, I've created a free case study video that will not only show you how to write a book from scratch in as little as 30 days and become a best-selling author, it will also show you how to attract more high-paid speaking engagements. Now, to check out this free case study video, click the link that says learn more or go to booksforathletes.com. Real quick before you go, do not go if you're not a former athlete or sports coach, because you won't find any value in what I'm about to share. And don't go if your book is already out and already on Amazon. You won't find any value in what I share over there. But if you are a former athlete or sports coach, know that you need a book, or already out there speaking and you want to launch your speaking career, go check out that link now. Writing a book is not as hard as you think. It doesn't even matter if you don't know where to start. My case study video will show you how to start and get it done and onto the bestsellers list. So go now.
All right, and then thank you guys for, if you're on the podcast, like I said, listening to the ad, it does help with the revenue, which I desperately need. I am poor, at least for the longest poor. Let's get some money going. This thing, you guys are great. But we're going to start things off, because what better way to start it off than what we do each and every round, because this is the best way to really get, I guess one would say the blood flowing, but the creative and angry fan mind going, if you want to call it that one as well, because of course that's how AFL pundits work. I'm just trying to fill into their shoes. I don't know if we really need any more of them though, but it's time to overreact to round 6 of the AFL season. For those that don't know how the segment works, I got 3 statements for Coach Johnny here, and it's up to him to determine if it's an overreaction or if there's actually some truth to it. And statement number 1. Oh, this is going to piss some people off, I'm sure. West Coast is the worst team in the competition.
Oh, after this week, some people may really love this jump to conclusion, especially those that are Port Adelaide fans, because they're not the ones being talked about being the horrible team.
Let's go Port
anymore. So we look at it. Again, this is one of those where if you look at the lists, and I say that again, what's on paper again is always a discussion for so many people, especially the pundits. If you look at the pure list, this is not the worst team in the competition. It is not by any source of the imagination. There are tons of talent on this roster. There are tons of talent on this list,
including the COVID list as well. Oh,
and that's kind of the thing that I find kind of very interesting, that there's a lot of different kind of, shall we say, agendas, or shall we say discussion points for. I mean, let's look at the three teams that a lot of people have been discussing over the last couple of rounds about being atrocious at footy. North Melbourne, Port Adelaide, West Coast. If you really look at it, West Coast and Port Adelaide have genuine arguments that they may actually be a better team than their record shows. Because
you could actually.
What did we talk?
They have legitimate qualms.
What did we talk about
when they blame injuries? Absolutely.
Oh well, I hate going to blaming injuries, because I don't think it's blaming.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and many people would say it's an excuse. It's an excuse. It's not really an excuse if some of your best players are out with injury, because most people would say on your list, your backup is not as good as your starter.
Really? Are you
Simple.
saying
If
that
you do
they
have a backup,
that's as good, is one of the best intercept markers, if not the best intercept marker in the league in Illyria? Are you saying that their backup is not as good as Illyria?
No, not normally.
Oh,
and
wow,
you also
wow,
gotta
wow.
Look at it is,
Hot take, Donnie.
Do they have your great full forward and small forward, and with Robbie Gray and Dixon being out too? So it's really, when it comes to Port Adelaide, has, like I said, they have that kind of parachute, shall we say, of that, and then West Coast can say the same. I mean, all those COVID outages, you have an injury list that is growing almost daily, which is insane. What they've had to go through. I mean, having to have to put in a waffle side against North Melbourne earlier in the year. So I'm gonna say this is an overreaction, because I think once West Coast is healthy, I think they're going to be a dangerous team, because by the time they're healthy, they're going to be out of it. I mean, most people have already kind of drawn a line through West Coast's finals appearances, but they're going to be experienced, they're going to be talented, and they're going to be dangerous, because they don't have to worry about the finals pressure. They can just go play footy, which many times, especially from round 17 to 22, is one of the most dangerous things to have, is to play a team that can just play footy. There's no pressure on them. They're not going to make the finals. They can just go play. So honestly, it's an overreaction, because I hate saying it, I think North Melbourne is actually the worst team in the league this year. I have a hard time seeing them not win the spoon unless West Coast issues just continue.
And I feel bad, because North is out here trying to prove it wrong. I was trying to give them credit, even though they're bad. I was trying to say, hey, this is a fighting team. They're not just going to roll over. But if you take a look at some of the performances this season, you could make the argument that it at least appears to be the case. I wish I was wrong, because they're a team I want to root for, because love a good underdog. It's just not in the books for them this year. Maybe next year, maybe the next 5 years, who knows? But then again, I can't talk too much trash, because I am a Giants fan, and that is a giant pain in the ass. But talk about pain in the ass. Let's bring up the D's, who also whooped the Giants a couple of rounds ago at this point. But that brings us into statement number 2, and that is that the Melbourne Demons should be worried about their offensive production. This is on the back of kicking just 9-22 against the Richmond Tigers. I'm sure, Don, you're going to bring up a hell of a stat that was just recently pointed out to us as well. But is this an overreaction or not?
Now, for most people, you would go, this is an overreaction. It's a team that's undefeated. It's a team that's playing really, really good footy. And it's hard to argue that. But it was brought up on a podcast, and I could not believe it when I heard it. And I told Ross this before we hopped on live, is that if you look at it, if you look at their record, they have not played a top 10 side this entire season. They played the Western Bulldogs, who currently sit 11th. They played Gold Coast, who's currently sitting 13th. They played Essendon, who's currently sitting 16th. Port Adelaide, who's currently sitting 14th. GWS, who's currently sitting 15th. And the Richmond Tigers, who currently sit 12th. So of their 6 wins, not a single team is in the top 10. And even this round, they're still not even in the top 8, with Hawthorn being ninth on the ladder. They won't even, as of at least this recording, they won't play their first team in the top 8 until the first round of May, next round against St. Kilda. So it's kind of one of those, if you look at that stat, like any other year or any other team, you'd be a little concerned because you won some games tight that you probably shouldn't have. You're playing a bottom tier, you're playing a bottom half of the ladder team. But you look at it, I think the Western Bulldogs have underperformed again. Injuries have really gotten them over the last few rounds, but they played the Melbourne Demons at the start of the year when they were mostly and completely healthy and still got beat. So I think this is an overreaction, but I'm interested to see how the D's respond because, as we kind of discussed off mic, the bulk of their really good teams are going to come after round 10. I mean, they're getting several rounds in a row. I mean, we looked at it. We looked at it together. We saw a run of the Freo Dockers, who are second, Sydney Swans, who are fourth or fifth, Collingwood, who's eighth, Brisbane, who is third, Adelaide, who's ninth or 10th, and the Cats, who are sixth. And all in the span of 5 to 6 weeks. That is a murderer's row from round 11
and they
through
get like
17.
a break for maybe a couple rounds in there with Port Adelaide and the Doggies, but then their last 4 is Freo, Collingwood, Carlton, and Brisbane. This, I'm not saying it will happen, but Melbourne definitely has the potential to not be anywhere near that top 4 if woes continue. I'm not saying that they're bad right now. I'm saying the potential is there. But also, if you take a look at that 6 games, if you kick 9-22 against Freo, against Sydney, against Brisbane, against Geelong, there's chances you lose by like 5-6 goals, at least.
Oh, but it also depends. But the thing, though, is you got to look at it too. Is that Melbourne's defense has been playing really, really well. I mean,
their defense is lights out. Oh yeah, no, but let's not argue against that. Their defense.
Well, they held the dog. Well, they have the best overall percent. They have the best overall defense in the league. They've given them out they've given up the least amount of points this season. Here, I'll pull it up really quickly. Their percentage is 153.5. all together, and if I remember correctly, they've given up the least amount of points, only like just under 400. They've given up under 400 points in the first 5 rounds, so they've played super, super well. Again, are they playing the creme de la creme? No. But again, this is a really good team that has had a lot of injuries in their back line. So for them to still play as well as they have, it's kind of scary because think about when they have all of their guys healthy. And then I don't know if you have seen this, Ross, but COVID has now gone through the Melbourne camp. Simon Goodwin, their coach, will not coach this round. Keziah Pickett and at least 2 other players are both out for this game this round against the Hawthorn Hawks. So if I'm the Hawks, you may be catching Melbourne at the right time. You've got a little bit of a team that's got a few injuries. You're going to get some backups in. This is one of those. I think this is a much more competitive game because of some of the breaking news over these last 24 hours. This is a much closer game than I think a lot of people are expecting going into the round. I mean, Luke Jackson was one of the others. It's a big loss because that's Max Gawn's kind of right-hand man and that secondary ruck that gives a lot of teams a lot of trouble. So not having Jackson, not having Keziah Pickett, those are a couple of big losses for those Melbourne Demons going into what I think is a much trickier Hawthorn side than some people are giving them credit for.
Man, you might be shining some light on what we're going to go over later when we get to our tips because, I have to give at least one a week, at least one bold prediction a week. Luckily, last round, hey, hats off to you two. We both went 8-1 on our tips. Mine specifically, it was Carlton that screwed me against Freo. But shout out, I just want to point out there that my tip of Adelaide and the Doggies went exactly as I thought it would. So maybe I'm not as stupid as I might think I am, or as probably you guys think I am sometimes too. So, can we ride the momentum into round 7? Well, you have to stay tuned until our tipping later in the show. Absolutely, you will. Please do. It'll be great. I promise. But last statement, and this one is one that hits near and dear to my heart because, man, I really don't think they got a whole lot to lose. But statement number 3, Leon Cameron won't be coaching GWS next season. Overreaction or not?
That is not, and I normally you're very good at picking stuff that it can be easily considered overreaction, but it's hard. It's hard. I mean, they are 1-5. And I think a lot of people saw Toby Green's back and like, it'll be the renaissance of the GWS Giants. It'll be a lot like last year, a horrible start to the season. Cameron waves his magic wand. The team starts playing well and they get into the finals. Unfortunately, again, they ran into a very good St. Kilda team. Toby played a really good game. I think he did make an impact, but there are just enough issues on this GWS roster right now that, as I said in the preview show, I am worried Toby's only going to be able to cover a few cracks, but too many cracks are still showing at this present point. It is hard to see this as an overreaction unless GWS goes on one heck of a run over the next few rounds and gets themselves at least within shouting distance of the finals. I mean, and just looking at their roster, it doesn't get much easier.
No.
A tough game at the Adelaide Oval this week.
We got Adelaide, we got Geelong, we got Carlton. We might be able to beat West Coast. You got Brisbane, might be able to beat North Melbourne. We got the Doggies, where honestly I'm actually looking forward to that game because at least the way they've been looking this year, they're actually, pretty even when it comes to competition wise, in just ability. And like you said, I think it might have been 3 rounds ago at this point, but that rivalry between GWS and the Doggies those are always some great games. So this might make it even that much better. So fingers crossed they can pull that one up. But back to Collingwood, back to Hawthorn. I'm even worried with Port Adelaide. It's hard. There's just a general sense of I just don't have hope when it comes to watching them play footy, which is horrible. But if you just look at their list on paper, that's a talented roster right there. If you take they are underperforming, and it's not. There are some of their talents that aren't playing as well as they should be, but also there's just a general feeling that Let me put it in my super dumbed down and simplified logic here. What's the point of playing the season? It's to make the finals. What's the point of playing the finals? It's to win a flag. Can the GWS Giants right now, with Leon Cameron as a head coach, make the finals, let alone be legitimate premiership contenders? I do not think so. And especially in the case where there are other head coaches out there that could fill Leon Cameron's role in a better way, I think you gotta send it. I got nothing against Leon Cameron. I mistakenly hopped on the bandwagon too quick last round. But this one, it's like something's got to change. And it just feels like there's just a general feeling of discomfort. Some of the reports coming out of the Giants camp is that it's almost a lack of confidence in Leon Cameron's coaching ability. And if you lose your team, you lose everything. I think it's time to make a move. I'm not sure if it's going to happen during the season. It just kind of depends if someone's out there. But I think by the time we kick off next year, Donnie, Nathan Buckley, head coach of the GWS Giants. Please.
It'd be a very interesting hire. Like I said, they're in such a tough situation right now because, again, I mean, you were 1-5, you were 20 percentage points behind Port Adelaide at 15th, and again, we had already kind of said their run is not easy. I mean, and even I'll say this, and I don't mean to damper spirits even more. By the time you get to West Coast may be back up to at least more full strength than they expected. They may not have McNatt Nui, but Shuey should be good. Yo will be back from his concussion issues. Kennedy will have had 3 or 4 games running through. You might get Jeremy McGovern back. It will be a much more experienced West Coast. That's what I said. West Coast is one of those teams. If I'm a finals team in the last 8 rounds of the season, I don't want West Coast on my roster because by then they may be more of the West Coast that everybody expected. That's the finals team stepping onto your field more than the waffle team of the first 5 rounds that put them in the hole that they are in, being 1-5 with a 61.2% rating. The only one that's worse is North at 60.6. So, I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like, again, I think Cameron will see through the season because I just don't see GWS firing him in midseason unless they can guarantee they're going to get the guy like a Buckley or like a Clarko.
Yeah, I'm not, but
and I don't see that happening during the season.
Exactly, I don't see them joining the Giants midseason. And honestly, at this point, are the Giants finals contenders? No. Can they be? Yes. There's still plenty of time of the season. But realistically, are the Giants going to make the finals this year? They are not. So there's no need to rush into a new head coach. Take your time. It's not going to really change much of anything. In fact, it might just give Leon maybe one more chance, but I don't want to run to, hey, let's give him one more chance. They get on a run, and then they don't fire him, and then they keep him next year, and then they suck again next year. This is horrible. But also, if this is last season, Leon Cameron in Greater Western Sydney, he's been a good head coach. It's not like he's just stunk up the place. He's been consistent as well. And so I definitely don't hate the guy. I just think it's run its course. And if I definitely don't want them to be on bad terms. I have enjoyed Leon Cameron as a person and as a head coach. I just think the time is right to move after the season.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you on that. Like I said, I don't see Bucky or Clarko taking this team halfway through the season just because there's just not enough time to get everything that they're probably going to want to have. They're probably going to want an off season. They're kind of want to. You'll see some player movement that I think will be more focused there. So I
think Buckley's enjoying his new job too much right now.
I think the only way you see Cameron fired is if they bring in a caretaker coach, which I mean is okay because some teams get a boost from it and they'll win 2 or 3 games. But I mean, if you want to get a better draft pick to potentially give your new coach that kind of springboard, you may not want to win a lot of games.
I'm not
just kind of
going to say, hey, you guys should tank. I'm just saying maybe you should try to improve.
Well, I don't think tanking's going to work right now because right now North Melbourne, Essendon, and West Coast I've got you beat. And
start
they're
to
worse footing than you are.
Yeah. I just think it's time, and like I said, not necessarily a bad thing. It just happens over time. This happens in every sport where a head coach just runs their tenure, and Leon Cameron is not going to get to the Giants to the ultimate goal. I'm not calling him a bad head coach. He's just not good enough, at least not at this point. Even if bring a new head coach is almost like some of the situations when you throw an emergency or when you pull the goaltender in hockey. Don, you'll love this analogy. My hockey guy right here. Sometimes when the goalie gets pulled, it's not necessarily their fault that they're getting, that their team is down by so much and getting scored on so quick. It's because that defense is giving them horrible, horrible shots and leaving the goalie out to dry. This is not necessarily and so they pull the goalie, not because it's goalie's fault, because sometimes they're just trying to create a spark, change something up, get a little bit more momentum going the other way. Leon Cameron is not just crapping the bed as a goalie right now. But we got to change something up at the organizational level. Yeah,
and I've seen that before, and it's a perfect analogy. It's not the person in the job; it's the entire team needs to wake up, and sometimes it has to be a sacrificial lamb, and unfortunately, sometimes it is the coach that is the sacrificial lamb. So
it's easy scapegoat, that's for sure.
Oh,
I don't need to tell the head coach that, do I?
Not really.
Oh man, I love it. At least, luckily, like people like me, assistant coaches, we get overlooked in terms of accountability and blame. So sometimes it works out for us. But those are overreactions. And look at this. We actually had one of the statements. They've been close, but finally got one where Donnie did not think it was an overreaction. So I think that is a milestone so far this season. But let's know your thoughts. Is West Coast the worst team in the comp? Should the D's be worried? And is Leon Cameron going to be coaching the GWS Giants at the start of next season? But before we get into what the blank we got a couple things to talk about here because one of the things, like I said, not a whole lot of controversy. So I have a question that I want to bring to Donnie in this week's kind of general discussion when it comes to some of the storylines going around. So through the first 6 rounds, there's been a lot that's gone on. There's been a lot, whether it be injuries, whether it be surprise players, surprise performances, surprise controversies, in fact, even as well. So at this point, what has surprised you the most about the season? If you can name one.
There's so many. But honestly, I'll kind of retort it, and I'm not usually one to ask a question. But do you want my positive side of this one or the negative side of this one?
Let's start with positive. The power of positivity, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll start with the positive. Okay, and that is the 4 teams that are currently in the finals that were not in the finals last year. These, and if I look at it, there's only one team of the 4 new teams in the finals that I had close, and that was Fremantle, and they're sitting second. And that, honestly, in my personal opinion, is one of the biggest surprises.
The
Fremantle Dockers, as of round 6, are second on the ladder with a 144.2 percentage, and their only
sounds like they're
loss
playing really good footy.
is to fifth ranked as we speak, St. Kilda. So that is probably, it's hard to argue that is not the surprise of the century, the surprise of the year, just because I think a lot of people saw Freo as being right there on the cusp. They were going to be close, that they may get in, but I think a lot of people puffed up the Richmond Tigers because Dusty's back, and the Richmond Tigers, there's no way they're going to have another season where they don't make the finals.
Definitely wasn't me.
And a lot of people got seduced. A lot of people, I'm going to say this and I mean this, a lot of people got seduced into that. And saying almost a little bit with Essendon too, is you kind of there was so much history
Essendon
that they were looking
hopeful.
at. They forgot to kind of, yeah, exactly. But I got to give Justin Longmuir a huge, huge pat on the back, sir. You have done a lot with a roster that I think when everybody said, well, Adam Chera is gone, I'm seriously going to say is Andrew Brayshaw is making a lot of Freo fans not have to remember Adam Chera because he is having an all-Australian type of season. You don't have Nat Fife right now. He's still having his back issues. David Mundy has missed a few games, but he's come in his usual brilliance. Caleb Sarong is playing well. Darcy's playing well. Taberner has a great last round with 7. So it is hard to argue that Fremantle is just, they're playing a great team style of footy. Like if I look at you, Ross, and I ask you, can you name me, besides the guys that I just named, can you name me 5 other Fremantle Dockers that you can think off the top of your head? And some people that are not Fremantle Dockers fans are going to have trouble naming 5 other players on this Fremantle Dockers team because there's not a ton of superstars. They have a lot of guys that play their role and play their role really, really well. And I have enjoyed watching this Fremantle footy team. They're going to be an absolute blast to watch. I think this is a team that's going to make the finals this year. I have a hard time, unless injuries ravage this team, which again, being in WA, is also the COVID issue too that you potentially are running into nowadays, especially. This team can make the finals. I think will make the finals. I know we're 6 games in. Coach, what are you doing? We're only a quarter of the way through the season. Yes. But they are sitting second on the ladder with a very healthy percentage, which is almost like a bonus point for a team. And they're playing really, really well. And they have made Optus Stadium, like West Coast, a fortress. It is very, very difficult to go west. They just beat a Carlton team that a lot of people said, Cripps is back. They're going to go over and win in the West. What happened? Fremantle, Cripps has a great game, does very, very well. But Fremantle gets the chalkies in the long run. So Adam Chera's return to the West comes with a loss. So this Fremantle team, if they, like I said, if they can stay healthy, they're going to be in this chance for the not only the finals, but they could be a top 4 sign if they continue this up, because Geelong is still iffy. Sydney has shown some vulnerabilities. Brisbane has shown some vulnerabilities. And there's your 3 other teams that are going to fight with you for the top 4. So, honestly, looking at it, with the Western Bulldogs being down in 11th place and currently a full game out plus percentage. I mean, you're talking about a Fremantle team that's got a lot of possibility of making the finals, and with their defensive style and the ability to make Optus Stadium a fortress, could be a very interesting threat against the Demons this year. Are the Demons a better team overall? Yes, but Fremantle's, keep an eye on this Fremantle Doctors team, because, like I said, they've got some horses. They're going to be a fun team to watch this season. Cannot wait. And then I hate going to the negative, but I'm going to go to the negative. And my biggest surprise has to be the Essendon Bombers. I mean, the floor has fallen.
Biggest
out
disappointment
on
of
this
the season,
team.
easily.
Well, you could say Port Adelaide, but again, I think a little bit the reason that Essendon is below Port Adelaide is more because Port Adelaide played a West Coast team that did not play really well, and Port kind of put it on them, boosting up the percentage. But just, I honestly don't know what is wrong with this Essendon team. Yes, they've had some injuries. Yes, are they full strength? No. But they played a brand of footy last year that they scored a ton of points, that they played at least good enough defense to keep in games, and they've got neither really. Like, they can't play defense, so they're giving up a ton of points, and they're not scoring the way they did last year, and that's really hurting them.
At least last year, even when they lost in exciting games because they're putting up a crap to the points and they lose close ones in a very high-scoring contest.
Exactly.
And then to your point about Fremantle, with them being not a superstar-heavy team, you have your few guys, but then being pretty well-rounded, I'm going to throw it back because it's my bread and butter. It's my wheelhouse. It reminds me of a specific NFL team that was on a hell of a dynasty, and that's the New England Patriots, because that Bill Belichick ran team. They had superstars, of course, like every Super Bowl winning team has. You have superstars. They had Tom Brady. They had some good defenders, but I mean, they had some good receivers there. Wes Welker, I mean, Edelman was some of them. It's hard to name all their superstars because it went over literally 2 generations of players with how long that lasted, which was horrible. Stupid Tom Brady, pain in the ass. But really, what they did, they built a really well-rounded team that was well-coached. And look at them. They won 6 Super Bowls. This is I'm not calling Fremantle the next I'm not calling them the next dynasty. I'm not calling the New England Patriots of the AFL. That's getting a little bit too ahead of myself right now, even though I like to make those bold statements. But they're doing things the right way. They're absolutely doing things the right way. And then the team I want to shout out is my biggest surprise, because not only have they played consistently, they've played consistently well. Shout out to the St. Kilda Saints, because hats off to you guys. You're proving everyone wrong, and you're making me look a little bit right for my faith I had in you late last season. So, you know what? Thank you guys. I'm not going to hang my hat on Essendon. Let's go St. Kilda now. Apparently that's the team I'm going to be riding with, because the Giants still want to win a game of footy.
Oh, and it's great. And then the other thing I would say, a big surprise for me is Collingwood, Carlton, and St. Kilda all having 4 teams from last year that were out of the finals, that were in the finals, and then vice versa with Port Adelaide, GWS, and the Western Bulldogs all not being in. Like, that's my biggest surprise, is how much turnover. Normally you get 2, max 3 teams from the previous season will drop out of the finals, and you'll get 2 to 3 new teams. But having half of your top 8 be teams that did not make finals last year is a big difference. So there's a lot of discussions. Now, when the Western Bulldogs get there, there's a possibility. I think if they get healthy, I think they are just as good enough team. They'll get there. But their injuries right now are in worst possible spots, because they lost Tim English, who, it's hard not to argue, at the time of his injury, was one of the best rucks in the entire competition. Is he that dominant Max Gone, Brody Grundy ruck? No. But he made an impact. He went forward. He was kicking goals. He was getting intercept marks defensively. He was around the ground and making an impact on the game. So it's just their injuries are hitting in just the wrong places. And it's like you're almost kind of going, that vaunted midfield that everybody said, they're so deep, they're so good. Lachie Hunter goes out with mental health. And again, I want him to get healthy. I want him to get in the right headspace to play footy the way he wants. But his absence now is looming super large because this was an Adelaide Crows team that statistically is the youngest team in the entire competition every round. They have the least amount of games overall as a whole. So for them to, for the Western Bulldogs to drop that game against Adelaide, and again, I'm not trying to bash Adelaide fans here. I'm not bashing you. I think you've got a much better team. I think a lot of people gave them credit for. Mm-hmm. That's a bad loss. That is a bad loss, even with some of the injuries that you have. And it's now got people questioning their midfield, which that was sacrilege last year, with as deep as they were, as talented as they were. Lockie Hunter goes out, and this year now, and all of a sudden, does the midfield have depth issues? That nobody would have thought that last year. So this is it just shows you how differently this year could go. Is that one difference, and then the ruck issue has now thrown this Doggies team into so much turmoil because we just don't know, will they bounce back or not?
You know what? For the sake of when they finally play each other in a handful of rounds, I hope not. so the Giants have a chance of winning. But also, it's been a pretty big surprise, especially it's hard because there's been signs of health. There's been signs of that finals team is still there. But then once you start to feel like, oh, okay, they're coming back, guys, and it just gets shot right back down. And oh no, they still suck. Never mind. So sorry to all you Doggies fans out there. Hopefully it gets better soon. Unless you play the GWS Giants, and I hope you suck. It's just going to be a horrible game, but somehow they might be able to make it good. Fingers crossed. And the next thing I want to talk about is Donnie was actually, we were talking about this earlier, and this probably has a way bigger impact on us as Americans than you guys do as Australians, because it looks like we might actually be getting Australian football on a different platform live here in the U.S., besides just the Watch AFL app. And to people around the States, that is huge news because the AFL and Fox have been essentially just giving the finger to each other, I think, this year. Maybe their talks have gone a little bit more diplomatic than that one, but that's what it feels like as fans. We're just kind of getting, kind of pushed to the side here. So, do we have good news, Donnie? Do we have good change coming to us, or is it actually just going to be more of bad?
Okay, Ross. As much as that was a great intro, but the problem is there's a tiny bit wrong.
Oh, what did I mess up?
Here's let me fully explain it, because then it'll make a lot of sense. Because if I do it like that, it will be a little bit of a miscommunication. Gil McLaughlin of the AFL is currently, if I read this correctly, is currently in New York, because he has a meeting with the executive producers of Paramount, and he's trying to get meetings with Disney, aka ESPN Plus, and Amazon. Mm-hmm. Basically, not this year, and after next season, the broadcasting rights in Australia are up. It's kind of like your NFL, your broadcasting rights.
Okay.
So what's actually happening here is that Gil is trying to get a new deal set up before he goes this year to come on after the next deal ends after next season. So it is not for Americans, and I don't mean to
are we still getting screwed over then?
Damn
it! I thought I actually had some hope.
Let's wait half a second, because here's kind of my opinion on this, and I'll state it like this: do I think that a Paramount deal, a Disney / ESPN Plus for many of us over here, sports fans over here in the States, this may actually be somewhat of a blessing in disguise, because again, it's behind a paywall, so which I understand. Many people are, but here's the thing: if for some crazy reason Disney does decide to pick this up, ESPN now has the ability to play it on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPN Plus. So there is the possibility that we could get it over here on television if that deal were to sign there. Paramount Plus is CBS. So some of the CBS sports channels potentially could play AFL. So there is the possibility for us over here in the States that this deal that Gil's trying to work out could potentially see footy being a little bit more available, shall we say, because if you look at Paramount Plus prescriptions, if you look at Hulu/Disney, the Disney Plus bundle /Hulu/ESPN Plus, there are a lot of subscribers that are subscribed to that are not sports fans or are sports fans that don't know about the AFL. So I think there's a hidden possibility. There's a hidden possibility that you could get some more footy fans off of this. So yes, I understand it's behind a paywall, and I get those arguments. I really, really do. But I put this up to a few people. I said this potentially could get it in front of more eyeballs, at least here in the States. Kind of on accident, shall we say. And it's not really on accident because it's not. It's people that pay for these subscriptions that get it. Now, the one that frustrates me is I'm not an Amazon person. I never have been. So the people that do, I respect you. I don't want Amazon to do this because I don't want to have to get Amazon Prime to be able to see any footy, no matter what. So personally, I've already got Paramount Plus. I've already got the ESPN bundle and ESPN Plus. So if Disney or Paramount does this deal, I'm good because it will affect me almost none because I'm already got those particular streaming services. The question will be, is it an add-on thing to where there's like a game on there, or is there more to it? There's still a lot to be, again, there's a lot of discussions. And this could even be just Gil posturing, trying to get streaming service so then he can get Telstra and Fox back home in Australia to throw in a few more $100 million to mostly keep it in the state, mostly keep it in Australia.
Well, it definitely sounds like to me still like the ways like just TV in general going, streaming services are huge. For me, I think best case, at least personally, would be if ESPN, Disney, I guess, picks it up. Even though, like, if you guys actually know me, I am definitely the farthest thing from a Disney fan. I hate ESPN. That's why I'm trying to, take them over somehow. So, hop on the bandwagon, please. We got a little bit of work to do. But I kind of have to use ESPN because that's the UFC main streaming service. It's on ESPN Plus, but also ESPN Plus is a huge service with how many sports it covers, how much extra stuff is there. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'd be willing to bet that it's one of the highest subscribed, at least with sports. It's probably the highest subscription rate of any subscription based kind of sports streaming service in the world. So if the AFL wants to get more eyes on this product, that would be huge. And also, especially when it comes to enticing Americans, most of the people I know at least know about, if not have an ESPN Plus account or at least use one. This would be getting a lot of people on board because if they're anything like me, all it took was, I see half a game. I'm like, I like this sport. I want to watch some more. You just have to get 5 minutes of footy in front of someone, and they're probably going to be a fan.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that I've noticed too. Is like if you can get this game in front of Americans in certain ways, I think you're going to get a lot more fans being able to get the access to it. So now again, this is the TV streaming rights for Australia. So there's a lot of things still up in the air. So and this is something that I don't think this is going to get done in the next week or so. This is, we're talking 2-3 months down the road. But I respect the Gil's trying to find a way to kind of get it not only on free-to-air TV in Australia, but also trying to find a way to get it on streaming services because, so many sporting events
more than just to watch AFL
sporting codes are trying to find a way to get it streamed. So I understand that and respect that. My only worry is this going to become something where the only way to see it is behind a paywall? I mean, even back in Australia, is that you've got KO but you've got free to air games on Channel 7 and Channel 9.
That's where
so
it probably crosses the proverbial line, huh?
Well, and that's the thing, where Paramount Plus owns 10 down in Australia. So some people are saying if Paramount Plus were to get it, it would still be okay for Australia because Channel 10 would then take over coverage for the free-to-air stuff, and then you'd maybe get one game, maybe two games on Paramount Plus. The rest of it are on kind of the local channels enough. But then it's like, for us over here in the States, is how does that affect Watch AFL?
Yep.
Like, because I believe Watch AFL is a Fox-connected thing. So if Foxtel doesn't get it, how does that affect it? Like, there's a lot of ramifications, not only for Australians,
I really
but
do
also
like
for
the Watch
American
AFL app
fans,
too. You know, I think
and I do too. I think it's very good.
Yes. Also,
especially for international fans.
Most of the commentators as well. The Fox ones are my favorite. I can't really name them by name. I just know that they're fun. They're better than most of the ones I have to listen to here in the States. Maybe it's the accent. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know exactly what it is, but to me, it's just better.
It's Macca's.
No, and one thing as well,
it's all those those awesome Macca's commercials.
Yes, that's the thing, Donnie. If they take away the only time I've ever enjoyed watching commercials over the last 6 years of my life, you know, because Super Bowl ones suck now and they're never going to be good again. The only commercials I will put up watching are the Australian ones, and I can only get those on my Watch AFL app. I need that, and I need those to not be stripped away from me because, some of the streams I totally don't pirate are Australian ESPN streams or something like that, so I still get some good ones there. But I can't lose that. But also, you know, I just think that if they can do the best of both worlds, where they get it on a streaming platform where more people could watch it, but also have the free-to-watch games in Australia as well. That's going to be the best solution here. But I preemptively feel bad for those Americans that go, oh, what sport is this? Australian football. Oh, this is really fun to watch. Oh, when's the next game? 3 a.m. Ah, damn it. Guess I'm not watching that one live. The horrible realization of what Australian viewing time is for us here in the States.
Unfortunately, it's something that you kind of learn to get used to. It is that the times are never adequate, shall we say,
unless
easy
we're
viewing.
talking
now,
about
unless,
later
unless,
this week
unless
when we live stream at 9:45 Mountain Time, 10:45 Central Time, and 11:45 Eastern Time. And just for the hell of it, it's going to be at 8:45 Pacific Time. Coach Donnie and I, and maybe some special guests, will be streaming. Was it Geelong and in Hawthorne?
Geelong and Fremantle.
That's the one.
GMHBA Stadium.
Yes, I should have known. I'm stupid. But yes, that's going to be a good one. Actually on at a decent time for us. So say, hey, it's a Friday. I don't have a personal life. Coach, do you have a personal life? Apparently not. We're going to watch. I didn't mean to call you out like that. I'm calling myself out mostly.
It's at a decent time for
exactly.
me. So 10:45 I can handle on a Friday night because it's not like I have to rush to get up the next early morning. And the best part is Sydney doesn't play till Sunday early AM, so I have plenty of time to sleep in.
See,
so
that's
I thought,
perfect.
This is a cracking game. This is a cracking game between two top three sides. So what the heck? Why not?
So you guys got to come and tune in as we watch that one as well. But let's know your thoughts. What do you think about the whole TV and streaming situation that Gil is currently handling? And what's been the biggest surprise to you over the first 6 rounds? But it's time, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to say what the blank. It's time to fill in the blank. It's time to I'm running out of ideas here, I guess. It's what the blank, man. What the blank is wrong with me, and what the blank is what we're going to do, because it's time For what the blank? Wow. Who could have seen that one coming? I totally did not preface that one at all. But for those
shocked me.
Right? I really pulled the rug at you on that one. But for those that don't know how this works, it's essentially fill in the blank, but it's with a funny name because I like profanity. Ha! I'm so funny. But I got 3 statements for Coach Johnny here, and there's a blank either at the beginning, the middle, or the end. It's up to him to fill it in with whatever he so chooses. It could be a word, it could be a phrase, it could be an essay, it could be a grunt. As long as he fills it in, that is the only rule here. But starting us off, statement number 1, blank. Oh, man, and to preface this, man, if you take a look at the injury report, especially if you're trying to, get your fantasy team set up, oh boy, it's a nightmare. So it was not a good round for injuries, especially if you're a ruck. They need to put you in a padded room in a little bubble ball so you don't get hurt. But statement number 1, blank, was the most impactful injury in round 6.
Oh, this one's hard because I think that the 2 names that I think come up the most are the 2 rucks, and it's even sparked some people to discuss if they need to change the rucking rules to be able to keep. And I agree with what one person said is they're freak accidents. They're not something that is done intentionally.
I don't think they're necessarily preventable.
Accident. Well, some people would say they're preventable, but it really does. It completely changes the ruck contest if you do change it. So I think they aren't accidents, and it's the PCL injury, which tends to be a ruck injury because you got 2 very long, large men jumping up and they bang knees, and if one hits the knee just right, the PCL has issues. So both Brodie Grundy and Mark Pitnet of Collingwood and Carlton, respectively, both are out for at least 10 to 12 weeks of PCL injuries. And I went through the 2 of them, and it's hard to really separate them because you're separating hairs. If I had to choose one, I'd actually say Mark Pitnet because I think Carlton's midfield really benefited from having first footy. And when you have Cripps, when you have Walsh, when you have Chera, when you have Hewitt, a lot of very good first ball winning midfielders, they need the footy to make an impact. If they're having to play defense, they're not as solid. Hewitt's a really good defending midfielder. Walsh is good. Chera is good. Cripps has his moments. It'll just kind of depend on where it is. If Carlton doesn't get the footy first, they are on the back foot, especially with their defensive woes that I think they're still having, which I think in the next few weeks we're really going to test and see how that back line really functions as they start playing better and better competition as the year goes on. So I think Mark Pitnet is actually the biggest injury because I think Jared Witts toweled them up when Pitnet didn't play the previous week due to health and safety protocols. And Jared Witts absolutely towed him up, and you saw Gold Coast beat Carlton. Carlton did not look the same. It was not the same team that we had seen previous weeks, which then, as many so eloquently did, is the joke that many Carlton fans were buying grand final tickets. Now they're trying to sell them after they lost to Gold Coast. So it was kind of the great little circle of life that is as a Carlton Blues supporter. So I think Mark Pitnet's injury, I think, is huge because they don't have another big body. They have DeConning, but DeConning is rather slight in size. So he has to try to beat you athletically, but he's young, so he still doesn't have the ruck craft as, say, some of these older rucks that he's going to face over these next few rounds. So I think Pitnet is the biggest impact. I think Collingwood has enough size with Darcy Cameron and with Mason Cox. I think they have enough. Brody Majacek, I think, can pitch hit there enough that I think they'll be okay because they're not as ball necessary to make impacts because they're a little bit better defensively. Again, Carlton fans, no offense, but I think Collingwood's just a little bit more structurally sound defensively at this present point right now as the season is going. So I don't think Grundy's impact is as much of a loss because Grundy's not the Grundy of 3 years ago where he was the best ruck in the entire competition. He could go up and down the field for days, no issues, good intercept marker, good kicker. He's kind of lost a few steps over the last couple of years. So whether his impact is the same is probably one of the reasons why I would say that. So yeah, I think Mark Pitnet is the bigger injury. So we'll have to see how Carlton's season goes because that's a big loss for them.
And statement number 2, what we got for you guys is there's a lot of talk this time. It's the time of the year where you get some new contracts for some young players, and then some of the questions come up is there's actually a pretty good amount of candidates right now that it could be the next one to sign that 10-year contract, that lifelong contract. So, Donnie, statement number 2, and hell, there's maybe even Giants or 2 on this one. But the next player to sign a 10-year contract will be blank.
Oh, next 10-year contract.
Look into your crystal ball.
Honestly, there's 2 guys that pop right in the back of my head, and I'm interested to see if they have to go somewhere to get this contract or they could get it where they are. I could see one potentially not getting a 10-year contract because of it. And there's 2, and they're both actually ruckmen. And that's Luke Jackson of the Melbourne Demons and Tim English of the Western Bulldogs. And the reason that I say this is because Fremantle has spending money. And both of those 2 young men are Western Australians.
Oh.
So I'm hearing from Damian Barrett, Matt Brown, and some of the reporters that both of those 2 are very, very sought-after players from both clubs out west to bring them home with their abilities, because Nat Nui is probably on the latter half of his career. Yes, you've got Oscar Allen there, but how is that going to go? Are they going to try to get English? Are they going to try to get Luke Jackson to sign and come home to WA to be that roving ruckman for their WA club? I think Jackson is most likely the one that probably is going to get it because he's so talented. Can he get it at Melbourne? I think he can get it at Melbourne. Will he? Ooh, that's the big question, because you've got guys like Petrarca, you've got guys like Oliver, you've got guys like Gawn, all of them there. You've got May, you've got Lever.
It's going to be hard to pay someone Brown, in Melbourne.
I'm going to say this, and again, Melbourne fans, I'm not trying to supersede this. I think Melbourne's going to start having the issue that Richmond had this coming up in off season.
Or people keep
Richmond has had for the previous 3 seasons. Is that fringe players and players that are at the bottom part of your 22 are going to get big contracts, and you're going to lose talent, a lot like what's happened with Richmond. Richmond's depth was picked apart like a crow eating a dead carcass. They're slowly picking away the meat of the carcass. And I think that's going to start happening to Melbourne, is that teams are going to start getting their players to sign contracts away, and it's going to eat up that depth that Melbourne right now is benefiting from. They've got a ton of depth. They can handle injuries, but eventually a guy like Luke Jackson goes, and then a guy like Jake Bowie goes, and then Espargo, and these younger players that they're on the team, but they're not Clayton Olivers. They're not the Petrarcas. They're not the Levers. They're not the Mays. They're not the Gawns. Yeah. They're not going to be able to afford to pay all of these guys great big contracts. A team may. So that's where I'm kind of sitting, where I think it's English or it's Jackson. I think is the next 10-year contract, because they're still young. They're great ruck forwards that can go forward, kick goals. And I think there's a WA team that's willing to spend the money because of the fact that they have a young list, and I think they've got the cash. They're going to try. And could I see it? Yes.
No, I think you make some great points there, especially with the correlation of what the D's are to the Richmond Tigers, because we're talking about the D's in the way that, oh, yes, Richmond is, down and out. It's time for a new dynasty to take place. Is that the Melbourne Demons? Only time will tell. They've only won one flag. We'll have to see if they can win another. But also, they're a potential dynasty team with a Brownlow medal winner in there. Chris Petrarca, i.e. Wow, I am horrible with names right now. Donnie, help me out. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Sweet damn. Why can I remember the greatest player in the league like a couple of years ago when I first started watching?
Dusty Martin?
Dusty, what the hell? It is a bad day to be live. Wow. It's bad.
And some good news on that. He's back at Tigerland training. He won't play this week against the West Coast Eagles, but I think next round, not this round. I think next round potentially he could be back. Just kind of depends. Supposedly he came back in super good nick. He's been running really well. He's had running days the last couple of days. They said he looks fit. He looks fit and firing. He looks good. So it will not shock me if. Let's see. This is round 7, I believe.
Be back by round 10?
Yeah, I think. It will not shock me if round 8, Melbourne Cricket Ground versus Collingwood, that Dusty Martin is in the lineup. It will not shock me a bit.
Ooh, wouldn't that bring the fans there? Hot damn. But I think if I had to choose one team to be able to like maybe buy English, let's put Team English out there. Between those WA teams, West Coast and Fremantle, I would love, and if I just had to throw a prediction out there, it's a prediction within the prediction. It's going off your prediction of who's the next, 10-year guy, and it's a prediction of what team is going to go to. So this is a big leap, in terms of the odds. But him in purple and gray sounds like a mighty fine future, especially if Freo keeps up this season. Who knows? They maybe need to add just an extra piece, and if you need to add just an extra piece to complete your team, Tim English is definitely a piece that fits into any puzzle of any team.
Well, in all due respect to Rory Law, but I think Tim English would be a vast upgrade. All due respect, and Rory Law has been playing pretty well, but I think Tim English is an upgrade because then Sean Darcy doesn't have to ruck most of the game. He can go rest up full forward, and imagine Sean Darcy as a resting full forward with his size and mass and ability.
Wait, so Sean Darcy is arresting full forward while you also have a fantastic ruck there? That is
have a fantastic
scary.
Running ruck in Tim English. Well, and the other scary part is, like I said, think about it. If it's not English and it's Luke Jackson goes out there, Jackson already knows how to be a good resting ruck / full forward with Max gone. So he's already been able to do it. And think about Darcy and Jackson together. I mean, again, it's a twin tower situation. So I'm very fascinated to see how it goes. Now, is there a possibility that Jackson signs a small contract to stay with Melbourne as long as they're winning and winning big? Yes, this is definitely a possibility. How this season goes for the Western Bulldogs could make or break whether English stays, because he is kind of that linchpin of their team. And if he goes, I mean, Stephen Martin is on the latter half of his year. So imagine the Doggies having the issue of Tim English goes and signs with Fremantle, Stephen Martin retires. Now the Doggies got to go looking for a ruckman. Oh boy, that'll be quite interesting. Yes, they got some young guys like Sam Darcy who potentially could be a ruck as your youngster, but do you want an 18-year-old stepping in the ruck? No, you don't. You don't really want an 18-year-old stepping into Gawn and Grundy and Witts and Darcy and Riley O'Brien and either Lannams like or Hickey or Braden Bruce. There's so many big bodies. Exactly.
Yeah,
so
you got to develop a little bit more
interesting
too.
to see.
And also, a shout out to Raw. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming as well. He says that there won't be any more 10-year contracts. Just puts the salary cap of clubs under too much pressure. So maybe 10-year contracts are in the past like 1,000 goal kickers and 100 goal kickers as well. Your thoughts on that? Is it dead?
I can see it just because of the fact that most of these 10-year contracts are very difficult to get through. Again, when Buddy signed his,
I wouldn't be surprised.
When Buddy signed his contract, everybody was like, "There's no way he'll get through it. There's no way he'll get to the end of his contract." He did, but it took a lot, including a full season where he didn't. At least one full season where he didn't play, and a couple of seasons where he played 2 or 3 games. Many people in Collingwood land say, did Grundy sign his contract and then he's went to to the you-know-what hole since then? Yes, you could say that. So I agree. I think it's hard to find a 10-year contract. I absolutely agree with that. I don't think you see a 10-year contract. I see you 5-6-year contracts, maybe 7 max, but even that's pushing it. Because the way the wear and tear on the body that these guys have to go through, it is difficult. It is very, very difficult to get through 7 seasons, considering the average nowadays is like 2 seasons. So I agree.
The NFL running back.
I don't see a 10-year contract. Oh yeah, exactly. They're going to get kicked up and spit out, especially at the ruck position. But the signing for life situation is more of probably a couple of 2 or 3 year contracts here and there, and then a 6-year once they hit their prime, when their biggest money situation, and then that's probably your career at 10 or 12 years max. And even again, it's hard to find guys that are going to get 12, 13, 14 years because the game, as physical, as demanding as it is, I think the 300 and 400 game monikers are going to be much less and less frequent, which is the other reason why I agree. I have a hard time seeing too many people get close to the 1,000 goal marker, because if guys are only playing for 10 seasons, you got to kick 100 goals to get 1,000, unless you're going to have a 13, 14-year season. And then you're still having to kick 70, 75, which is not easy because the way defenses are structured. I mean, you're winning the Coleman at 75.
Yeah.
If you do 75, 10 consecutive years, that's not easy because he's figured you out.
Just be a 100-goal kicker each year for 10. That would be the most
it'd be great to have, but it hasn't happened for years, unfortunately. Yeah. I mean, we don't have the Dunstall, the Plugger Lockett seasons where you got guys kicking 120, 130 goals. That just doesn't happen anymore.
Consistently kicking like 8 to 10 goals a game. Just ridiculous numbers. Taking a look back, like when I took a look back at like Plugger's numbers and stuff like that, I was looking at that on the lead up to Buddy kicking 1,000. It doesn't make sense. Like, especially with the game that I've seen over the last 3 years, I can't even comprehend how that is a thing. But apparently, 5 is going to be the new 10 in the future. And speaking of 10, add a couple zeros because that is going to be my half-ass segue. Statement number 3. Marvel Stadium means blank to me. I put this out there because we're on the verge of its 1,000th game with the Essendon and the Doggies in round 7.
It's very interesting because for me, Marvel Stadium means we kept footy. Because if you look back to 2020, if it weren't for the AFL owning Marvel Stadium, we may now have footy. I mean, footy could have won, at least AFL footy could have went under because so much finances were in it. And if they weren't going to have the season, there goes the TV contract. There goes all this money for these clubs. So Marvel Stadium, really, it's hard to argue. Marvel Stadium is not the reason we still have footy nowadays, because they got a big, massive loan, some over $600 million from the stadium to be able to finance 2020's end of the season with all of the hubs and everything like that. And that's the reason why footy came on. So for me, Marvel Stadium means we kept AFL footy alive, because if it weren't for that, who knows if we would still have the AFL as it is still functioning after all that happened during the COVID situation.
That's a fantastic point. To me, I guess with Marvel, my first introduction to Marvel was a few years ago. And it wasn't for footy. It was for MMA. The UFC had an event there with Israel Adesanya taking on Robert Whittaker. I believe that was when Izzy took the middleweight championship for the first time. So, and I just to see that tiny little octagon, that 30-foot wide octagon in that giant stadium was quite the spectacle. And also, I thought it's so funny how they had like 50 rows of, like little just plastic chairs on ground level. I'm like, how do you see that? Right? Even you're 50 rows back, there's just one tall person in front of you, and that's it. It's over.
You just have to look at the big screens, right?
Yeah, you know what? It would be cool to be there in person, even if you have to watch on the big screen, especially in that moment. But Marvel Stadium, I think it's a really good looking stadium. It's one of those nice ones. Is it historic? Is it like the MCG? No, it's not. But it's a beautiful looking stadium, and I think like most of the stadiums that the AFL plays in, they're all pretty good looking. Even the smaller capacity ones.
And if they're not, and even if they're not brand new, they have history. I mean, you look at the Adelaide Oval and you look at the Sydney Cricket Ground; they have a lot of history. And if you look at just the outline of the Adelaide Oval, it's just a gorgeous view of the old scoreboard.
And I think they both look good as well.
Scores for years. Oh, exactly. And the Sydney Cricket Ground, a lot of people still say one of the pictures that came from Buddy's 1000 had the old stand in the background, and it's this really cool architecture in the back. So they are gorgeous stadiums. Yes, I mean, you've got the marvel that is Optus Stadium. That's the brand new stadium that was built in like a Coliseum, which is
and
absolutely
Optus
fantastic.
is a pretty bitchin' stadium. There's
Exactly.
no denying that.
And then the MCG has all the history. It has the massive capacity all around 100,000. But each and every one of the stadiums that currently hold most of the games throughout the AFL season all have some kind of great thing about them. The GABA has history. The SCG has history. MCG. Marvel's got history.
They
Funny
all
thing
have
I find
a soul.
is that
they all have a soul. It's hard to find that in some of the,
unless you talk to the Richmond coach. There is no soul in Marvel. sorry, Richmond fans.
That's great. We gotta get our dig at you guys. No. Just go hug your flags. But like, especially in our stadiums, especially in the States, there's some that just don't have a soul. Like the Texas Rangers Stadium. Okay, the inside it's gorgeous. But if you're looking for the outside, it looks worse. They literally took a airplane hangar and slapped a big old T on the side, and boom, there's your stadium. It's not good.
Well, and so many of the new stadiums, they're built so fancy and funky to where they got all this, and they're almost becoming geometric shapes. Like the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Georgia is absolutely ridiculous.
U.S. Bank Stadium,
yeah.
Even though I think that one's kind of cool.
Vikings, the new SoFi Stadium.
SoFi. I do kind of like SoFi, though. I'm gonna be honest, it's pretty nice. Allegiant looks like a giant Roomba in the middle of a desert. Not sure if I'm a fan of that one.
but
it's a perfect vacuum. Of course, you need a vacuum for that team, is because you're trying to clean up the trash as the Las Vegas Raiders. Even on the AFL show, I still found a way to trash on the Raiders. I win.
Well, let's go to this. The other funny thing when it comes to Marvel Stadium is the fact is that you got to ask what era you were watching originally, because the thing has changed names so many times. It's Dockland Stadium. It's Etihad Stadium. It's Marvel Stadium. The thing has changed 3 or 4 times. So it depends on when abouts you paid attention to footy there, because it's changed names several times. Like sometimes when I'm talking to Aussies, they start talking about Docklands, and originally I go, we're talking about Marvel. Because that's what its name is now, because it's changed several times. So again, it doesn't have the history that the MCG does, but it is a stadium that has some interesting characteristics to it. It is a faster ground because it has the roof. Like the MCG doesn't have a roof, so you can play indoors in the middle of the winter and you can shut the roof and it's nice, perfect footy weather.
You mean summer?
Wind, none of that. So. No, it's winter. You got to remember, it's a winter sport down there.
No, I know. I just want to throw. Now I'm talking smack about your guys' season patterns. What now? What are you going to do? Put a hot dog and not eat it in the bun, but on a piece of white bread? You freaking weirdos.
Be careful there. Bunnings and the sausage sizzles. Very, 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 very Aussie. Don't. I wouldn't trash that. Be very careful where you tread on that one.
Hey, who should I avoid insulting more? The Snag or Crocodile Dundee? I don't know which is more of a national treasure.
I don't know. I think you can probably get it a little bit more of the Crocodile Dundee, because I
definitely can't talk smack about Steve Irwin. I stay away.
No, you can't do that. That's too much. That's too much of an institution there. But no,
that's a whole country turning on you in an instant.
Very quickly. But
I'm not trying
be
to
very
get
careful when
canceled
it
for
comes to
a
the
wrong
sausage.
take on Steve Irwin. I'm more okay with it being like, he's I do love a good sausage. All right, I'm gonna get hungry. Let's keep going. But that's
you got your onion. You got your onions too, and your tomatoes, and your tomato. Yep.
Hey, keep that Vegemite away from
good old fashioned sausage sizzle.
Keep that Vegemite away from it. You guys are weird. You know it's bad when even Australians are super torn on it as well. So I don't want to hear it. Also, it's just they're going to attack me with like they're going to like ship me a dingo or something like that. I don't know if that's possible. Is that? Can you? I'm sure if I had enough money, I could order a dingo. I don't know why I'm talking about this. Let's get back on
We're
track.
off the rails so bad.
Oh, but that's going to do it for What the Blank. Who you guys think is the most impactful injury so far? And what are the odds that you buy me a dingo? Drop that in the comments or in the stream right now. Would love to hear. My girlfriend loves dogs. Dingoes, essentially it, except they're more prone to eating babies. So, hey, just give me a pit bull instead, possibly. But it's time for. Oh man, I'm saying a lot of things. Oh man, you guys are in for something this round. This is what happens while I'm mentally exhausted from the day. A lot of stupid stuff just comes out of my mouth unplanned. Hopefully that adds to your guys' enjoyment and not malice towards me. But what we're going to jump into now, before we get into our tips, it's time for the greatest list in all the lands, the one that spans across the biggest ocean in the galaxy. And I can say that because I don't know about a bigger ocean. So, without further ado, it is time for Coach Donnie's Team of the Round. Coach, throw it at us. What you got for us this round?
Oh man, this would be a fun one because especially for the forwards, we had a lot of guys kicking a lot of bags, so there was definitely a little bit easier to pick the forwards and some interesting performances. Let's jump right into it. Again, we always start Team of the Week with the defenders because defenders win championships. Let's start off with Adelaide's Billy Frampton, 26 disposals, 10 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 9 marks, and 502 meters gained. Continuing an amazing season and an amazing story is Carlton's Sam Docherty, 32 disposals, 6 intercept possessions, 3 score involvements, 7 marks, 3 tackles, and 478 meters gained. Yes, they didn't play very well, but we got to get a guy into the Team of the Week from the North Melbourne Roos, and that is Luke Mcdonald with 22 disposals, a goal, a defender kicking a goal. How come that's so North Melbourne this year? 4 intercept possessions, 7 marks, 3 tackles, and 379 meters gained. Mr. Consistency, and that is Geelong's Tom Stewart. 23 disposals, 8 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 5 score involvements, 9 marks, and 495 meters gained. The man with the leg, that is Brisbane's Daniel Rich. 26 disposals, 7 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 6 score involvements, 3 marks, 3 tackles, and 307 meters gained. Yes, Richmond did not get the Chalkies, but again, another great performance on the defensive end by Nick Vlauston. 30 disposals, 13 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 4 score involvements, 12 marks, 3 tackles, and 544 meters gained. We jump to the ruck, and he's back, sir, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, he's injured, but he still gets my Team of the Week starting ruck, and that is Mr. Brodie Grundy.
There we go.
The Collingwood Magpies, 16 disposals, a goal, 4 intercept possessions, 2 goal assists, 6 score involvements, 6 marks, 3 clearances, 33 hitouts, and 241 meters gained. I find it really funny. My midfielders this year, there's a couple of superstars and a couple of kind of surprises here. So I'm interested to see what some of you guys think of this. Midfielders will start off. GWS's Callum Ward has an incredible game to start off against the St. Kilda Saints with 21 disposals, 2 goals, a behind, 4 intercept possessions, 7 score involvements, 4 marks, 9 tackles, and 360 meters gained. Again, kind of showing how the Western Bulldogs midfield has been kind of up in the air. We have Adam Treloar from the Western Bulldogs getting the nod here with 22 disposals, 2 goals, 6 score involvements, 3 clearances, 5 tackles, and 220 meters gained. Port Adelaide's Dan Houston continuing a good season for him, making up for some of the deficiencies at Port Adelaide with 33 disposals, a goal, a behind, 11 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 6 marks, 3 clearances, 4 tackles, and 457 meters gained. He's out 1 week, he's back, and he, again, goes right back into the Team of the Week with a great performance, and that is Carlton's Patrick Cripps. 32 disposals, 3 goals, a behind, 3 intercept possessions, 7 score involvements, 4 marks, 8 clearances, 3 tackles, and 251 meters gained. No, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a homer pick because this gentleman had one heck of a game against Hawthorn, and that is Sydney's Callum Mills. 37 disposals, a goal, 7 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 11 score involvements, 11 marks, 6 clearances, 5 tackles, and 660 meters gained. We jump to the men that kick the goals, and lordy, oh lordy, did we have a lot. We'll start off with St. Kilda's Jack Higgins, 18 disposals, 4 goals, 3 behinds, 3 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 10 score involvements, 9 marks, 3 tackles, and 427 meters gained. Port Adelaide's Todd Marshall, 14 disposals, 5 goals, a behind, 7 score involvements, 11 marks, 7 tackles, and 343 meters gained. And his fellow counterpart, also from the Port Adelaide Football Club, is Jeremy Finlayson. 19 disposals, 5 goals as well, 2 behinds, 2 goal assists, 11 score involvements, 6 marks, 3 tackles, and 295 meters gained. Setting a record in Tassie is Geelong's Jeremy Cameron. 16 disposals, 7 goals, 3 behinds, a goal assist, 13 score involvements, 9 marks, and 428 meters gained. A particularly impressive performance from Zach Bailey of the Brisbane Lions. 17 disposals, 6 goals, 8 score involvements, 3 marks, 319 meters gained. But to kick 3 of his goals in the wet was pretty impressive there. So
that was a really good showing.
Not only for the 6 goals.
If you didn't watch the game, you wouldn't even know it was raining.
Yeah, especially his one-handed pickup for the snap goal that he did. I think it was the 4th or 5th. That was an incredible goal there.
Stick 'em on those
last
hands.
but not least, starting in the starters, the man, the myth, the legend at such a young age, and that's Collingwood's Jack Genoven. 12 disposals, 5 goals, 5 score involvements, 5 marks, and 355 meters gained.
And 1 crowd silencer. I want to throw that stat in as well.
All right, we jump to the bench, also from the Collingwood Magpies, defender Jeremy Howe. 22 disposals, 9 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 13 marks, and 335 meters gained. Our midfield bench player is Mr. Jared Lyons of the Brisbane Lions. 30 disposals, a goal, 5 score involvements, 13 clearances, 10 tackles, and 873 meters gained. Continuing another great season is the Rockman from the Fremantle Dockers, Sean Darcy. 12 disposals, a goal, a behind, 4 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 7 score involvements, 6 marks, 3 clearances, 3 tackles, and 29 hitouts for the big Rockman from the Dockers. And rounding out our team of the week is Geelong's forward, Tommy Hawkins. 17 disposals, 4 goals, a behind, 2 goal assists, 10 score involvements, 5 marks, and 321 meters gained. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, there were a lot of goals kicked by just these gentlemen alone, considering 4 goals was the minimum to make my team of the round this year in the forward. So it's showing you 3 goals ain't good enough, because you almost got to get 4 to get on the team of the week.
Most of the season is probably you got to kick 4. Man.
Well, this is the second straight week the top goal kicker for the round has 7 in his pocket. So that was pretty impressive there.
Jimmy Cameron's something else.
Goal kicking.
Man, it sure would be cool to see him in orange and gray right about now, or charcoal, but I want to take maybe we'll have to do that, like halfway through the season. We'll have to take a look back at that trade they made a year and a half ago. It was 3 first-rounders for Jeremy Cameron. There's clearly, at least as of now, there's one team having a lot more success right now. So that's one thing we'll keep on the back burner, you guys. And we could retake a look at that draft and how that could be a fun series to do in the offseason. Maybe we'll throw some ideas out there. What do you think, Donnie? Keep an eye on that?
Maybe, definitely. It's definitely one to keep an eye on, because, again, you almost look at it, too, do you look at it as does Geelong win the trade if they get a premiership flag, or does GWS win it if Geelong doesn't? Because in the long run, yes, Jeremy Cameron takes over as the kind of top forward when Tommy Hawkins goes, but in the long run, you've got some 3 first-round picks that GWS will have that's all together could potentially span another 5 to 7 more years after Jeremy Cameron is done playing. So there's it kind of depends on how you look at it.
Also, it's up to your philosophy.
Definitely a trade.
So I love it. It's going to be a good debate because there's plenty of subjectivity in it. So subjectivity breeds controversy. Controversy means views. Let's get some views, baby, and let's piss some people off, apparently. It works for some of these pundits, like some of these guys, in the AFL media. I'm not going to name names, and it's definitely not just because I can't name their names off the top of my head. It's because I don't want to start beef for sure. But some of them, just say some ass, and this is the NFL world too. And Stephen A. 10% of the time he might be right, 90% of the time he's loud and wrong, but he's entertaining, so he gets views and he makes a shit ton of money from ESPN. So that is on us as sports fans, apparently. Not me, because I don't watch him. Not you. I highly doubt you would be the one to watch him. So I'm blaming everyone else out there. I don't know who, but if you see this finger, maybe just assume it's for you. All right, maybe the finger lands on the right person. But we're going to kind of wrap things up here.
If you want a Stephen A. Smith that I believe that does kind of this, that says a lot, that I'm still surprised people even take his opinion, and that would be Kane Corns for many people. Kane Corns is your Stephen A. Smith. He will say something that literally makes no sense, and it comes out of a complete left field. And so many people eat it up, like the Jack Genoven drama.
Are you going to talk about how these are actually taking a look at trading away Christian Petrarca right now?
I don't know he'd go that far, but I know there was one year he was claiming that a team was going to win the grand final, and they didn't even make the finals that year. So he does have his
that's
moments
a tough one. Oh,
yeah, I remember. I can't remember who it was, but he said a team was going to make it to the grand final, potentially win the grand final, and they didn't even make the finals that year. So I almost started laughing. So he does have those Stephen A. Smith moments where he says something. You're just like, dude,
it wasn't him last year, but there's definitely
that out of.
It wasn't him last year, but I forget who exactly said that both the D's and the Doggies are not going to make the grand final.
That was Heath Shaw.
Neither team is. Heath Shaw. Oh,
Heath Shaw,
bro, I saw
the
that.
former GWS defender.
I'm not
he
claiming
ate crow
that
for
one.
months.
He
ate crow for months.
I saw that post. I saw that post. I was on my Twitter feed. I'm like, oh, this is going to age horribly. And you bet your ass I bookmarked that.
It aged very horribly.
Oh, poor guy. Hopefully he could live that one down eventually, but not right now. But speaking about potentially having to live down bad takes, let's get into our tips for round 7 of the AFL season. This is one where both, like I mentioned earlier, both Don and I are riding off a little bit of a tipping high from last round. We both went 8-1. You got the Crows and the Doggies game wrong. I got the Freo and the Carlton game wrong. Damn you, Blues. I was so close to greatness. I'm so proud of my Adelaide Crows take. So, like I did a little bit of teasing earlier in the show, so it's time to fulfill said tease. I will scratch the itch that I gave you guys. But the first game that we got here is going to be the West Coast Eagles and the Richmond Tigers. Richmond, not great. West Coast, even worse. Are we going with the best of the worst?
I'm going to go Richmond on this just because the West Coast, they're still... I believe that many of the issues that they're running into is more of people coming back from COVID, actually having COVID, than people having to sit out for COVID protocols. And I think that's kind of the thing that's been a big talking point with some people has been should we be able to find out whether they actually had COVID or not, which again, that kind of goes against your medical, whether you should be able to spread medical information or not. So again, I understand it for pundits, but it is kind of a thing where it is a privacy thing. So I understand the health. There's going to be a journalist that wants to get their hands. I'm gonna tip Richmond. I don't like the mojo of the West Coast Eagles right now, but I'm gonna say it. This is a West Coast Eagles team that once they get kind of back to normal, and again, I air quote this a lot, then they are going to be a team that is going to scare a lot of teams in the finals because they're going to be a 16th, 17th, 15th rated team that can beat any finals team because they've got a lot of experience and a lot of talent. So I'm going to tip Richmond on this one just because I still don't think West Coast is there yet. So I don't think they're back to that kind of 85 to 90% that I think then they'll be a team that'll be dangerous. So I'm going to tip Richmond on this one.
This next one, I'm not, I guess, too surprised by the percentages, but I am surprised by the betting odds on this one. We got the game that, like we said earlier, we are going to be live streaming this one over on our Twitch channel. So Twitch TV, twitch.tv/fourthlongmedia. It's on our website, thefourthlong.com. Just go there for everything. But
We'll put out the link.
Exactly. Follow us on Twitter, all that good stuff. But it's between the Geelong Cats and the Freo Dockers. 84% of tipsters are going with the Cats. I'm not too surprised about that. But we got, the odds is $1.29 for the Cats and $3.63 for Freo. So sizable underdogs in this one. I'm not sure if I agree. I am going with the Cats, but I could definitely see Freo pulling this one out.
This is one of those legitimately.
I went back and forth.
I looked at it. Well, no, I looked at this one and I went, where this game is played is gonna depict my tip. Legitimately went, this game is at GMHBA, or if it was in Victoria, even if it was up at the MCG, I'm gonna tip the Cats because the travel sometimes bothers Freo. But if it was in Optus Stadium, legitimately I would tip Freo. Legitimately I would tip Freo because I think Freo plays Optus Stadium so much better. I think the Cats can play Optus because it's a lot like the MCG, a little bit better than some do. But I would still, so this one's where I'm going to tip the Cats because it is GMHBA. I think it fits the Cats style a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But this will not shock me. Not shock me a bit if Fremantle wins this because the way Freo is playing right now, they're defensively smothering. They don't give up a lot of points. They're so good defensively. They're starting to find their ability to kick goals, which is dangerous when you can keep teams from scoring and you can score more than you were last year. That was
take
really
a look at Freo last year because one of the big things, Freo would have been a lot better team if they could kick straight. It was a running joke that I had each game that, oh wow, they kicked so many, they got their behinds kicked because they were just horrible in putting it through the two middle poles that you're supposed to. But luckily for them, Donnie, I believe what Freo did over the offseason, they put their nose in their literature. They read the rule book. They're, it's the middle ones that are 6 points, not the outer ones. We'll kick it through the middle. And look at them. They're amazing.
Well, and you look at it, how many times last year did they kick more behinds than goals? And that really
more than half the time, right?
Games.
More than half.
Well, you kick 10 behinds, you take 5 of those behinds. That's you're talking 24 points more per game. If you kick 5 more goals than you do behinds, because you go from just getting 1 point for a kick to 6 points, you're adding an extra 5 points per every extra kick that you get.
Don Hess, resident calculus expert.
Simple math. It's plain and simple math there. So but
I like those numbers. I can count them on my hands.
I can count. Yeah, okay, but no, I'm gonna love this game. Like I think it's the reason why I love. Surprisingly, for such a great game being on at a decent time over here in the States, I cannot wait because this is going to be champagne footy. Yes. I think this is going to be a classic. I think this comes down late fourth quarter. Like I said, I think the Cats win it, but if this was an Optus Stadium, I would legitimately tip Fremantle.
Yeah. Now, this next one, if we want to talk about surprises, surprise to me is a GWS win. Now, this, it really wouldn't be the biggest upset of the round, that's for sure. It's probably going to be a closer game. At least I hope it's going to be a closer game than I pessimistically might be thinking. We got 82% of tipsters rolling with the Adelaide Crows. I don't blame them because offensively just all around they've looked like a real team. I'm going with them. At the Adelaide Oval, it's a good environment for the Crows. And I just have zero confidence in Giants.
I'm also tipping Adelaide, but this is one of those that I did have GWS at first. When I first started tipping this game, I tipped GWS because it's a prototypical GWS that they'll fall apart in a game against St. Kilda. Cameron will take them in, grab them by the scruff of their neck, shake them a little bit, go, come on, get your heads out of a body cavity. You really shouldn't be saying in front of people. And then they find a way to play a great game their next game. Like it's like it takes a few seconds for the message to fully assimilate into their brains. So I'm worried that this is an Adelaide Crows team that's now starting to get a lot of compliments. That do they overestimate a GWS team that everybody's going, well, they're 1-5, they're not playing well, Cameron's on the hot seat. I mean, this is almost a perfect storm for a young Adelaide Crows team to slip up. I'm going to tip the Crows in this one because, again, Adelaide Oval, I think it's going to be hopping. I think the Crows fans are starting to get up and about. They're enjoying watching footy. Tex Walker is playing out of his skin right now, which is absolutely fantastic.
I'm so glad he's back. He's amazing when he's on. He's so exciting.
But I'm going to tell you this right now. GWS winning this game will not shock me a bit because that's just the way this GWS team is. I don't know. They're an enigma at times because games that I think they should be much more competitive, they don't. And then in a game, I'm thinking they're down on confidence, they're down on form, and they pull one out. So I'm going to tip Adelaide on this one, but it will not shock me if GWS wins this game at all. Will not shock me a bit.
Yeah. I appreciate the confidence there. And speaking about shock, it's time for me to scratch that itch because we get to the Melbourne Demons, the Hawthorn Hawks, and if you, it's my one of the week. It's my one of the week, and I think I'm like 50-50 on this one, so it's not horrible. But
He's going for it.
We're going for it.
I love it.
Me and the other 4% of tippers out there, I'll let it ride on the Hawthorn Hawks. They're going to take down the D's, and they're going to give them the first loss of the season. It's happening. Let's get behind it. $4.35 as the underdog. Oh yeah, bet the house. Please don't take a betting advice from me. But yeah, let's let's go Hawthorn.
I'm going to tip Melbourne on this one. I think Hawthorn is still
Why would you do
a
that?
younger team. They're still learning. I just think there's just a little too much talent, and I think Max Gawn is going to expose Max Lynch a lot like what Peter Laddams did. I think I'm interested to see how this one goes. Does Melbourne put the hammer down, or does Hawthorn stay in this? Because I want to see that. Because if Hawthorn stays in this, if I'm a top 8 club, I'm much more confident that you can pull an upset on Melbourne if they stay close. If they pump Hawthorn by 80, then I'm a little worried because now they're starting to play better teams. And if they pump them and beat them by 80 or 85, then I'm a little concerned. If they beat them by 15, less than 3 goals, if I'm a top 8 side, I'm going, okay, come on, Demons. I think we can beat you now because there's a weakness that I don't think a lot of people expected. Now, Kazi Pickett's out. You got some of the injury. You got some of the COVID protocol issues. So will it be a full thing? No, but this is a depth Melbourne team that has so much depth. They're a scary team. Bailey Fritsch is still on there. Ben Brown's still on there. God's still. Petranka's still there. Oliver's still there. So I'm not as worried about them. But again, I kind of look at it is that is this going to show a little bit more of a vulnerability to better teams, or is this going to show that Melbourne is they're just getting into second gear and they've still got third, fourth, and fifth gears still to come?
This is going to be a perception, changer of either team on the line on this one, no matter what happens. So I'm super excited for that one. And now we get a stretch of 4 games where I really feel like there's only one answer to who we're going to tip there. Donnie, are you reading my mind as well?
There's only one in this little run that I'm
Gold Coast.
As I said earlier in the show, I'm still debating, and that's the Gold Coast Collingwood. I agree with you. I think St Kilda beats Port. I think Port is still not 100% there again. Lysette not being there still, I think, hurts this Port team. I think Aliir has shown better. I think his matchup with the King, with Ben King here, I think is a much more favorable, or is it Max? I can never remember which one's on which. I'm sorry. The King brother that's on the St. Kilda Saints is playing out of his skin right now. Can Aliir shut him down? And then can their young defense keep a Higgins and keep this really quick forward line in check? Carlton should easily beat North Melbourne as long as they show up normal. Again, how does the pit net injury affect it? Because Goldstein's still there, Giry's still there, so will Carlton have to start defensively to kind of counteract the loss of the bounce of the ruck contest? And I think the Western Bulldogs, yes, they're without English. Yes, they're without. I think they've just got a little too much. This Essendon team, but that's the other one. Like, if I rank it from most likely to see an upset, that I would go Gold Coast 1, and then I'd go the Essendon Bombers 2. I think that's the most likely upset. 3 would be Port Adelaide, St Kilda. North Melbourne would be the least likely to pull the upset. But then again, though, the way this footy season's going, you could see all 4 potentially win here, because there's a vulnerability on each. Port Adelaide's playing better. St Kilda has not. St Kilda, really, besides Freo, hasn't played elite teams yet. I think Port's getting better. North Melbourne, they're facing an injured a pit netless Carlton team that I think has shown some vulnerabilities defensively, and if they can get offense from Zerha, from Zeeble, from Jai Simpkin, from Goldstein, they could pull an upset there. Gold Coast, Witts is an incredible ruck. I think he can really put himself there. No Brody Grundy, I think, can even this game out. Gold Coast has got a very good shot. I'm going to tip St Kilda, Carlton, Collingwood, and the Western Bulldogs. I'm going to tip the top teams. But Gold Coast and Essendon and Port are the 3 I could sit here and say it will not surprise me if they win it, with Gold Coast, Essendon, Port in that order of how I see potentially upsets there.
The last one is the hardest one of the round.
Is a coin toss for most people, horrible. And that is Sydney Brisbane.
Well, it's a coin toss on the odds as well. Right now, if you're one of the tipsters, it's 52% to the Swans, and then obviously 48% to the Brisbane Lions. Dude, this is a tough one. Like, I'm going with Sydney because I've been riding with them on the season, so I'm just going to default to them. But man, if they're anything that we've seen from the last, if they play like they did the first half against Hawthorn, they're probably in for a rough night. If they play like they did the first quarter against North, it might be in for a rough night because Brisbane scores so fast. So it'd be hard to catch up if they need to. I don't know if you could get behind by like 3-4 goals against this Brisbane team right now and be able to come back.
And that is a great point. That I think the stumbles in the first half of games against Hawthorn and against North Melbourne, I think has got a lot of Swans fans, and has even got some pundits tipping Brisbane because of that.
I don't blame him.
I normally am always I'm the eternal pessimist when it comes to my tipping. I hate tipping for Sydney. I tend to kind of play the double-edged sword. I tend to tip for Brisbane because then I can cheer for Sydney, because if they lose, I get the tip right. If they win, I get my team win.
It's like me and fantasy football.
It's kind of the having the cake and eating it too. I'm tipping Sydney because here's how I look at it. Here's how I look at it like this. Sydney defensively is still pretty good. Yes, you lose Paddy McCartan, but I think you've still got some backups that are coming that are going to be fine. It isn't the tall forward line I think a lot of people think it is. After McAdams and after Danaher, it's a lot of shorter players. It's the mid-sized Zach Bailey's, the small forward Charlie Cameron. So it's not a hugely tall forward line like some people are making it out. So I think if you bring in Sam Reid and you have Tommy McCartan will take Danaher, Sam Reid will most likely take Mistay, Cunningham will take Charlie Cameron, I think you've got a good enough defensive ability to be able to shut Brisbane down. The issue I see for Sydney may be, how does Peter Laddams handle Oscar McInerney? Because McInerney is a big body that tends to be physical. Laddams is a little more skilled ruckman, and he's faced rather younger ruckmen the previous 2 weeks and has dominated because he's facing guys that are not nearly as skilled as him, Max Lynch and then the young guy from the West Coast Eagles. Is his confidence up that he's going to go into this McInerney matchup and be able to perform as well as he has over the previous 2 weeks? If he does, I think Laddams gets around the field a lot better than McInerney. That's going to give him an advantage. And if they can win the taps, Callum Mills is playing well. Most likely you may see Josh Kennedy come in. You've still got the Warner. You've still got Blakey. You've still got McInerney. You've still got Rowbottom, a very young midfield. And Callum Mills can play a tagging role on Lachie Neale. And if you can take Lachie Neale out a little bit, you can kind of weaken Brisbane's midfield. So I'm interested to see. And then defensively, who takes Buddy Franklin? Does Harris Andrews? Because if Harris Andrews takes him, that takes away your intercept marker because they have to be touch tight on Buddy because Buddy is such a dangerous. And you still got Isaac Heaney, potentially Papley coming in. Benny Ronk's playing better. And so there's a lot of matchup problems I potentially see. And again, I think I'm going to tip Sydney in this. I just think there's enough matchup wins for Sydney.
Okay.
They can win this. And being at the SCG. If this was at the GABA, I'd lean a lot more towards
one of
the
those
Lions. I think
where
the Lions play. Yeah. I think there is a home field advantage in this situation because Sydney does play the SCG very, very well, and it is a different ground than the GABA. So I'm going to tip Sydney on this one. I'm going to buck my trend. Normally, I tend to tip a team like a Brisbane over Sydney because just kind of the trends as I see. I think Sydney's playing really, really well. So I'm going to tip Sydney on this one.
Yeah,
but this one scares me as a Sydney supporter.
Oh, if I was to say
this is a very good Brisbane team.
Yeah.
But I look at it as this potentially could be the other team with Fremantle in the talks around Melbourne as those flag contenders potentially. I mean, depending on what pundit you talk, there's some pundits that Melbourne's got this in the bag because the Western Bulldogs are not playing.
I'm not buying it.
And Sydney's vulnerable, Fremantle's vulnerable, Brisbane's vulnerable. But I agree with what some is that Melbourne hasn't played the cream of the crop yet, so they haven't really been tested as much this year as they did last year. Teams have kind of figured it out. They're going to have a year to look at it up. Sydney's a young team. They're a year older, and they played Melbourne last year in a championship within 2 goals. So they're there and a year more experienced. I think Brisbane has tons of talent with Eric Hipwood still coming back. And I think Fremantle, if they're defensively structured play as well as they do, they can match up and shut down enough of Melbourne's abilities. I think they're in it. I don't think Melbourne's as invincible as we kind of looked at. So that's why I'm looking at this Hawthorn game going, will we see vulnerabilities? Will we see a normal, non-Superman-ish Melbourne performance? Or do we see them absolutely destroy them? So this is such a fun round of footy because
great games,
this could really tell us who is what, because Geelong beats Fremantle. Geelong's right back in the talk of flag contender.
Fremantle
because
beats
if they beat
Geelong.
Fremantle, that's a top two side, a Fremantle team that's playing really well. And
Hawthorn
we
can
kind of
prove
see so
they could become a pure, legitimate, more than legitimate team. They could become a Hawthorn. Donnie, the Hawthorn Hawks can become flag contenders depending on results from this game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I completely agree. Important. Hawthorn could stamp themselves into the finals
that sounds
if they
so
win
weird
this
coming
game.
from my mouth. Hawthorn flag contenders should not be in the same sentence unless there is a isn't in the middle of there. But it's 2022. Apparently, anything happens in the AFL now, so it's impossible. It's impossible, truly. No, that's what makes it fun. That's crazy. Imagine if North Melbourne beats Carlton. That's a bad look for Carlton right there. St. Kilda can keep rolling, or Port Adelaide might be able to get back in it. And I really do think, like your point there, the winner of Sydney Brisbane puts himself at the second best contender for the flag, to Melbourne, assuming Melbourne handled business against the Hawks.
Well, the other thing you think about it too is that there's one opponent that they've both played, and that's the Geelong Cats. Sydney beat the Cats again at the SCG, and Brisbane lost to the Cats at GMHBA. So it's very fascinating. Again, if you kind of look at matchups, Sydney beat a team that they're playing against. So it's very fascinating again. So each and every game has a storyline that if it happens a certain way could change how we look at this, change how we look at the season. I mean, if you're right and Hawthorn knocks off Melbourne, all hell breaks loose, because then I think
that's
it goes
why
from,
I need to be right, Donnie.
I'm being serious, because even though they are missing Keziah Pickett and Luke Jackson, is that vulnerability shows, and every team is going to dissect it and try to do what Hawthorn does. I mean, Sam Mitchell, he learned from one of the best in Clarko. So if he does it, every team's going to dissect that tape to within an inch of its life to see how they did it. Now, if Melbourne just has a bad game and can't kick straight worth a darn, can't hit to the broad side of the barn, kicks only 5 goals, we'll know that basically if you put enough pressure on Melbourne and make them make them have a horrible kicking day, you can beat them. Again, we don't know. But then you look at it as who wins the Geelong Fremantle game and who wins the Sydney Brisbane game, because it could not only change the ladder, but it could change the discussion on who's that second best team on the ladder. If Geelong smashes Fremantle, Geelong's got a plausible excuse to say that they're right there. And then depending on Sydney Brisbane, I mean, if Sydney beats Brisbane by 2 goals, and Geelong beats Fremantle, many people would say that puts Sydney in the catbird seat as the number 2 team in the entire competition.
Donnie, we might get a new flag favorite by the end of this round. That's crazy.
We could have 3 or 4 teams fighting for the flag if certain things happen.
Right.
But and then again, it's how do the Western Bulldogs bounce back? Can Richmond get their form back? Because this is a perfect opportunity. You play a West Coast team, you got a chance to get a win. You get a win here, you could really bounce your season back into the way you want it. Same thing with Western Bulldogs. You've got a chance to bounce your season back on the right track with a good win going into your next round. So each and every round could potentially be your spark for the rest of the season. I mean, as a Sydney supporter, I remember 2017. They were 0-6 after the first 6 rounds. They reel off 10 wins in a row to go from 0-6 to 10-6 and in the finals.
It's possible.
So it just shows you one game, if done right, one game can spark you to 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row, and the whole ladder could change if certain things happen. So this is another round where the matchups are scintillating. I cannot wait for this, because every single day there is a game that I'm going, I can't wait for, because Friday night, at least here, Geelong Cats, Fremantle Dockers. Saturday night here, you've got a couple. Collingwood Gold Coast will be fascinating. You've also got Saturday early morning, at least here, is the Melbourne Hawthorn game. And then Sunday, 2 of them, the Western Bulldogs Essendon, which I think could be fascinating for the Western Bulldogs season. If they drop one to Essendon, oh my gosh, it's going to be fascinating watching the Melbourne media lose their minds if that happens. And the Sydney Swans, Brisbane Lions, the communication on that one is going to be fascinating, because if it's a close game, again, how is it interpreted by the footy media? Who's the better team? It'll be fascinating to watch that. So each and every game this round could be absolutely storyline-ish with how certain results could affect the season.
No, I'm super excited, and I came up on the fly with this line pertaining to the NFL draft when we were recording this week's NFL breakdown. And all I gotta say, Donnie, hell, I might even put this on a t-shirt, because this is my mindset for everything not related to my favorite teams. And fingers crossed for chaos, because that will make this so much more fun. I just hope that you know what hits the fan, and the whole. I hope Twitter crashes. I hope Twitter crashes just from the AFL community blowing up over some of the results this round. But would love to see your thoughts, and especially, can I get one person on my side when it comes to tipping Hawthorn this round, please? It's okay. It's a welcome 4% that you got here. Come join the 4%, guys. We'll love to have you here. But that's just about gonna do it for us on live and on this recording here. And I do truly appreciate everyone that tuned in, whether you caught us on the live streams on YouTube and Twitch, whether you caught us on YouTube, whether you caught us on Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, streamed the audio from our website at thefourthandlong.com. Everything is amazing, and you fans truly are the best in the world. And if you're looking at just audio, Australia, stand up, because you're just 1 percentage point away from being from making a quarter of our viewers. Almost 25% of you from Australia, this audio. And then on YouTube, if you want to take a look, it's almost half. So you guys are fantastic. Maybe that should teach me to refrain from insulting snags, but I'm stupid, so I probably will not. As long as I don't insult Irwin or Crocodile Dundee, then maybe, just maybe, I'll make it out of here alive. But thank you, like I said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Catch us on Twitter, Instagram. Catch Coach Johnny on Twitter, Instagram as well, at CoachHess40. And, Coach, your thoughts on the Hawthorn Hawks' chances of beating Melbourne in one word or phrase?
Mind blowing. If that legitimately, like the mind blown emoji on our phones, legit. If that happens, I will legit shout you out on Twitter if that happens. Legitimately do that, because you will have called what nobody, and I mean nobody, except for 3% of the tipping competition, and most
It's
likely
happening.
that 3%
It's happening.
are Hawthorn fans. Legitimately, let's
Bring it
just
on,
be
baby.
honest. It's
Let's
probably
go, Hawthorn.
Hawthorn fans that are going, you know what? Darn it, I'm tipping the Hawks. No, I'm gonna love this round.
Let's go.
I'm
Dude,
gonna absolutely love this
let's
round. But
freaking
if
go
that happens,
Hawks. I
dude,
am so
legit, I will
behind
come
them now.
on with a round of applause. Next podcast, I will
them.
start with a round of applause for you if that happens. You have it. I will be to my word. If they win that game, I will start off the podcast with a round of applause for you, sir.
Hawthorn, don't let me down, please. But ladies and gentlemen, go root for the Hawks this round, and we will see you after round 7, or not even after that. Hopefully we'll see you on Friday/Saturday, depending on what continent you're living on. See you next time.